Welcome to the True Demon Lord Show. I am the True Demon Lord Franco, and today we're going to continue with our series of showing some examples for tips, tricks, and using different things as far as playing your games with Chaos Demons. And today we're going to focus on Rapid Ingress. So, Rapid Ingress is a core rulebook stratagem which lets us bring down one of our units from reserves at the end of your opponent's movement phase. So, that's a really strong stratagem. In my opinion, one of the best stratagems in the entire game, especially for an army like us who love our deep strike and we can put a lot in reserves. Um, this helps you get around, screens, um, be able to shock your opponent and just cause general mischief and helps you massively in certain games. And I'm going to give you a few examples of how to how to use it. Some different examples, some different tricks you can employ in your games as far as getting you maybe extra primary, denying secondaries, just positional play, just many different things you can do with Rapid Ingress. So before we get into that, thank you for checking out the video. As always, I do appreciate it. Please leave a like and subscribe, and any feedback, please leave down below. I'm always open to hearing what people want to hear about as far as Chaos Demons go. But without further ado, let's get straight into the examples. So for the first example, we're going to show you how to score primary using Rapid Ingress. So basically, for this example, we're against Chaos Space Marines. We have a nice unit of Scary Chosen with a Lord over here on the right hand side, and then up in the top part of the screen, we've got a Predator. So they've kind of come out, they want to score these objectives. Great. Say you've gone second. So this is where it matters. So either this is your opponent's second turn, or maybe you've gone first and this is still your opponent's second turn. You didn't really want to overextend, give them any reason to be closer to you, or give up units for free, basically, and then allow them to know what needs to die and kill it. So we're going to use Rapid Ingress here to help us score primary. Now, we could just do this simply. We just drop down. We're outside of 9 inches of all enemy units. And we just drop on the objective. You know your opponent's not got any way to deal with you. Boom, you score your points. That's pretty easy. But, like we said, that's pretty easy. So we could just do that. In another case, say the opponent is a bit closer with their big scary combat unit, and we really don't want to have to take this to the face, right? Because that's quite scary. But because of that, we've also got this tank up here. So we want to, when we're dropping, we want to make sure, say, we want to bring it a bit closer. We want to make sure we are out of charge range, or at least that charge range is pretty long that we don't really have to worry too much about it. So what we're going to do is we're going to make sure we are just well away from that because we don't want that. We don't want them being on the objective. We don't want them wiping out the unit from horrors. The only problem is this big old scary tank is here, and they could do some damage here. There's another shooting unit here, like maybe obliterators or whatever, just for the example. So what we're going to do? Well, simple. We're going to sit within 6 inches of the Bellicor. Obviously, reefed in shades lets us not be shot while within 6 inches of Bellicor outside of 18 inches. That means that this tank, which is over 18 inches away, can't shoot us. And then this unit of Chosen here is outside of 12 inches, meaning, when we get into our next turn, there's 5 more points of primary or whatever the mission may be. It's just more primary points that your opponent wasn't really thinking you were going to get. A smart opponent may realize you might be trying to do this, in which case they might deep strike something here or throw something forward. But opponents that maybe are just don't think about it, or maybe not as adept in those kind of tactics, we'll just leave it alone because there's no reason to be there because you've got nothing on there, allowing you to pull out a trick like this. So for this scenario, we're going to show you how to kind of get around, you know, just having to make those 9 inch or 6 inch deep strikes, not overextending with other units to help you drop closer, and kind of getting around screens as well. So for this example, we've chosen two fairly scary units when it comes to shooting. We've got a big knight here, just for example. It could be any kind of big scary unit, but a big knight here with a nice big melter cannon, and we've got a warglaive here with its twin link melter weapon here as well. And then, for this example specifically, let's say in this medium L here, we have a unit of henchmen And over here, we have in this building here a Calidus. So we are being screened out quite nicely now. So it's going to make it harder to get Bellicor here and then 6-inch Deep Strike out Shalaxi or whatever combat threat you want to use. But you know you want to definitely take care of this knight here. So how are we going to do that? Well, of course, Rapid Ingress. We're going to take Shalaxi or whatever combat threat you're using, but in this case, we're using Shalaxi because she's the best. And we are going to Rapid Ingress her. Now, we're not just going to Rapid Ingress her anywhere. We're going to make sure that we are outside of 18 inches of this Knight Errant here on the right-hand side, and the Warglaive up here in the top of the screen because we just don't want to take unnecessary shooting. And of course, if there's any in this for any other example or scenario, if there are some scary units that could maybe do a bit of damage to her in combat, maybe trying to stay away from them as well. Of course, if you maybe want to try and bait people into making the charge, you could. So, of course, here we're going to drop down and oh, she's going to go flying, and we're going to. She does not want to stand up. Oh, she'll actually, does she? She's going to go there. And she's going to sit within 6 inches of Bellacore, therefore she can't be shot by either side, and then in your turn, she then surges forward, gets to about here. She doesn't have to worry about any screens hiding in buildings. She's now got a nice closer charge. She gets a reroll because, you know, she's Shalaxi, she makes it in, and she kills the errant. Therefore, killing a big threat, maybe getting you something like Bring It Down, as well as just taking the objective off your opponent, stopping them from scoring it in your next turn. Of course, this could be with Blood Crushers. This is just a general scenario, but the idea is you've got some big shooting threats or threats that are being screened out right now. You drop your big combat threat within 6 of the Bellacore, 18 inches away from those threats. You move forward, you make your charge afterwards. Done. So, the next example we're going to show is how to combine both the shadows and Rapid Ingress together, and in this case, to protect other more important units. So, we've got a nice big scary exalted 8-pound brick over here. Now they are pretty nasty, right? And we've got our good old chicken Lord of Change sitting right here. He doesn't like this. He does not like what he sees. He's about to get swamped and beat into a horrible bloody mess. How can we stop this? How can we protect this? It's your opponent's turn. What can we do? Well, of course, Rapid Ingress. So how's that going to help? This unit of Exalted 8-bound, they are about 7.3 inches away. Well, in this scenario, again, using this across many different other examples, we, at the start of your opponent's movement phase, have 2 objectives in no man's land. That means, because of that, the shadows persist. And it will exist. It will stay around for the rest of your opponent's movement phase until the next phase, which will be their shooting phase. So that means, because of that, when we come in from reserve, we can land wholly within the shadows and come 6 inches away instead of 9 inches. And because Rapid Ingress, of course, lets you come in from reserves, in this case, Deep Striking, you can use the shadows to come 6 or more away. So we're going to take this unit of pink colors, keeping the Zinch theme, and what we're going to do is we are going to basically drop as close to them as possible, as horrible as that sounds. Why do we want pink horrors dropping really close to Exalted 8-bound? The idea here is they are basically sacrificial lambs. Now, you don't just have to do this with pink horrors. You could do this with anything. You could do this with plague bearers. You could do it with a unit of flesh hounds. You've just got to be careful on the scenario. In this case, world eaters don't really have any shooting, nothing really to threaten you here. So therefore, you're not that worried. You're just going to drop your pink horrors down because you're not scared. If you're going to get some better shooting, then of course what you drop might make a difference. Pink horrors are a pretty good and safe option. Where you drop them, of course, it you will have to adapt to the scenario, but this is the basic principle of what we're doing. And then, of course, in your game, you take this, you take the idea, and you mold it to whatever situation you're currently in. So, as you can see now, we have this wall of pink horrors. So, of course, the Exalted 8-bound are going to make their charge, but more importantly, they are not in combat with the Lord of Change. Now, of course, you don't have to hit what you charge. Whatever you're in engagement range with when you make your attacks, you can hit, but there is no way they're going to go through the pink horrors before they make their attacks. And, you know, maybe there is a slight chance they don't roll as hot as they could, we could make a good amount 4-up saves. Our pink horrors do persist, and we end up losing, say, 9 of them. We keep one, and then a bunch of them split, in which case we would then split those blue horrors into the 8-bound, tagging them as many as we can with the blue horrors, since they can end an engagement range from the drop because they already because the unit was already in combat. Obviously, you still have to keep your coherency and stay within 2 inches of any model that was already existing when the splits happened. So, for example, the one pink horror. But that would be a good way to stop them from being able to then pile into the Lord of Change, keeping your Lord of Change completely safe. But let's be realistic. It's probably not gonna go very well. The pinks are gonna probably die. In which case your opponent then will pile into the Lord of Change, which is cool. More importantly, they can't hit him. They can't kill him yet, and that's fine. You will get to hit him back with your little magic stick. And you may kill one if you get lucky, maybe. But more importantly, the Lord of Change is still there. We've lost if the pink horrors die, we lose the objective. But okay, fine. We've still got a big asset. And then in our turn, we can either, if we've got nothing we can really save him with, we're just going to fall him back. But if we can maybe bring something else down and bring something across, like Crusher, Shalaxi, Bellicor, whatever you want. You can shoot into them, hope we kill a few. You can even shoot into something else because you're a monster, you don't care. But you've still got in an important asset alive when your opponent was bearing down on them with something scary for combat. So next example we're going to show you is how to try and mess about with your opponent's secondary scoring and their attempt to get objectives. So again, like we've already said, for this scenario, we already had half or more of the objectives in No Man's Land. Therefore, for the rest of your opponent's movement phase, shadows does persist. Therefore, we can drop 6 inches away. And we're going to do a similar trick to like we previously did. And we're going to drop 6 inches away. Now, we're going to take our plague barriers in this case. And because they are on the edge of the objective, that doesn't screen up the whole objective. So obviously the objective itself, or the area of the objective, is 3 inches around. About a 40 mil token is what an objective actually is. So it does give you a slight little bit of breathing room to be able to then just pull some plague bearers in this case down on the objective. Now, say your opponent has cleansed, they didn't think they had to worry about it, they've just moved this unit here. Since you rapid ingress at the end of your turn, your opponent may not have even bothered to bring anything else forward to deal with them. Now, say they have. In this case, we're against sisters. They brought a castigator somewhere around here, and then they decide, oh, we could shoot those plague bearers. More importantly, for the castigator, is they do force a battle shock test once they hit something. Therefore, you know, they're going to try and kill your OC, so then they can cleanse. Thing is, if we still put the shadows up, we get +1 to that battle shock, which in the plague bearers case means we're passing on a 5. And if we pass, we get to return D3 models back. So that's pretty good. The other option, if your opponent does have some scary stuff, and we have Bellicor nearby, is to trail back to Bellicor. In this case, it's quite easy, but if he was a bit further back, like say here, then what we would do is we would probably, well, not probably, we definitely would, is we would do this. Of course, you want to make sure you're creating this sort of try point there because you need to make sure you're within 2 inches of models that already existed in the unit. And as you can see, we are then just making sure we're still in coherency of everyone. And as you can see, now we're protected from anything else over 18 inches away. This unit, then your opponent may just give up on cleanse, charge forward, in which case, you're not going to get too many plague bearers hitting, but if you're going to be killed, you're probably going to pull from the back. You pile in, and to be honest, in that fight, even losing a few of the plague bearers to the combat, I'm still quite confident plague bearers can have some big resistance. They're going to struggle to do damage, and you're gonna wound, hitting on threes with lethals, wounding on threes, -1 in this scenario. You're going to do a bit of work. So this is a way to scupper up your opponent's secondary plans, ability to move on to objectives, etc., etc. So for the last example, we're going to just show you how to use Rapid Ingress to get around Deep Strike denials. So, there are quite a few units that have a 12-inch Deep Strike denial, which is really annoying for an army like us. One of the most, popular or well-known choices are Space Marine Infiltrators, as we have here on your opponent's backfield objective here on the right-hand side. Other examples of this is Commander Farsight, not Commander Farsight, Dark Strider, sorry, for Tau, as well as Admech also have a small character, they can take 3 of them. GSC have a small character, they can take 3 of them. You know, they are really annoying, but we can kind of get around it. Now, this isn't going to be as effective against a very top opponent on the top of their game when it comes to screening. But, you know, in those cases where your opponent does make a mistake, then this is a good way to exploit it when it comes to um, infiltrating or deep striking denial units. So, as you can see, our opponent has lined up their infiltrators here on the right hand side across their backfield objective. This is screening the back corner here, down in the bottom right, as well as just screening forward. They've got another unit of Marines trailed here in the middle. This is to keep the screen going forward, keep the screen going backwards. They've also got a unit up here on this objective up here for their primary and a bit more screening. They've run out of units. They either have stuff in reserves or they don't have enough to kind of play about with. So they've left a bit of a gap here, but they feel like they're safe. They're screening it quite well. So this is where we pull the cool trick of Rapid Ingress. So we've got a unit of Blood Crushers here. Now we really need to get hold of our opponent's foot objective for whatever reason, primary wise. Maybe we're falling behind and we need to really give our opponent a hard time by giving them a 0 on primary. And just in general being annoying, or maybe there's another important unit, maybe behind the infiltrators that you really want to get Shalaxi into, or something else like that, or a Bloodthirster. But the only way you're going to do it is by getting rid of the infiltrators first. Therefore, you're going to use, say, a unit of Blood Crushers in this example. So we're going to drop around about here. Now, this is a roughly pre-measured. The idea is, you know, we're still outside of 12 of the infiltrators, we're outside of the 9 of the intercessors here, and then the intercessors here. Now, of course, there could be some scary shooting, and maybe if you're really desperate, you're just going to accept that. But, you know, there could be examples where, you know, it's not the shooting in the backfield isn't so scary. The more scary shooting units are maybe up here, like in this middle ruin up here in the middle, or this medium L up here on the left hand side. So of course we've dropped here. Then in our movement phase, we take our 10-inch movement, and then we make our charge, and we get everyone in. And I mean, it's self-explanatory from that point. We move on to the objective. We either do in most of the unit with the impact hits in the combat, or kill them, or even just kill enough of them where we can then pile on and take the objective. And that's a good way to get around this 12-inch six strike. Now, of course, this is a more basic view of one unit of infiltrators. If your opponent has these annoying characters, like Admech or GSC can do, or even Tau, you know, they can screen here. And again, this isn't going to work against the best opponents, but against those opponents that maybe their screening isn't up to scratch, or even a good opponent has just made a mistake, you know, and not really thought ahead about Rapid Ingress. This is a good way to get around it. Now, say your opponent does have a unit here in this media or this small rectangle building. Well, there is another thing we can do. So instead, what we can do is we can drop here instead, right? Your opponent's screening everywhere else, but they've not screened out here. Maybe you've got Bellicor. Now, you're preemptively thought about this. You've moved Bellicor up here. You might even have something else up here, just ready, just in case. Now, your opponent, like we said, have screened here, and they've screened here. They've got a really important unit sat behind the infiltrators, again, for example. So we're going to Rapid Ingress. We're going to drop over 12 from the infiltrators here on the left, and this unit up here in the middle. And then the other thing is we can stay within 6 inches of Bellicor. That means if your opponent does have some scary stuff towards the middle for shooting or towards the back, they're not really going to be able to shoot you, which is great. In your turn, you then move forward. Now, the other example, the other thing we can do here, so say we don't quite get as far, we've had to deploy a bit back, and we're here. That's not great, right? But we're going to really struggle to get into this unit of infiltrators. So what are we going to do? We're going to advance, and we're going to roll an average 4. So that charge now looks a lot more appealing, right, than the previous one did with the +1 and all that. But with advanced, how are we going to charge? We're going to use Warp Surge, and because we're still in the shadows, I would say, for example, we've taken half of the objectives. We're now in the shadows. If we're not able to, Bellicor could take a movement up here, keep us within the shadows from his bubble, and now we spend the CP and we then manage to get in. Hopefully the impact hits do most of the damage, and then we just use the movement from the rest of it to be able to get ourselves moved on to the objective, taking it, getting rid of the 12-inch deep strike. Again, maybe potentially allowing us to now drop something scarier with Bellacore, like Shalopsy or a Bloodthirster, and be able to deal with more key units in the backfield. So, hopefully you've learned a few bits that you maybe weren't aware of or didn't really think of as far as Rapid Ingress goes, or it's maybe helped you just understand the stratagem a bit more, giving you some ideas you can apply in your games. Some of these, examples are quite big and potentially game winning. Being able to drop, say, Shalaxi in your opponent's turn and then be able to get a closer charge, being able to avoid any kind of deep strike screens that they've got going about, and killing a really important asset of your opponent, as well as denying primary, potentially scoring you points if you manage to draw, bring it down, or already have bring it down through fixed or whatever the reason or whatever the thing. So, just some really good examples there that hopefully can help you um, understand rapid ingress more, being able to use it more with your demons, and just be able to hopefully get a few more victories out using, in my opinion, one of the best stratagems in the game. So thank you for tuning in. Please leave a like and subscribe. It's very much appreciated. Check out other videos we've got where we've talked about the blood crushers, as we done in our last video, giving some tips and tricks on them in the charge phase, and just anything demon related really. This is one of the best places to come for just pure demon content, and just advice from a very dedicated, passionate, long time demon veteran like myself. So without anything else to be said, thank you for tuning in, and I will catch you all in the next one.